Today we're going to talk about adjectives. And adjectives are describing words. They describe nouns, so people, places, and things. And adjectives in Spanish work differently than adjectives in English. The concept, though, is still the same. They're describing words. See? And before we talk about the rules for adjectives, I want to introduce you to some common descriptive adjectives in Spanish. Repiten: alto, alto, tall. Antipático, antipático, mean. Bajo, bajo, short. Bonito, bonito, cute. Bueno, bueno, good. Delgado, delgado, thin or skinny. Feo, feo, ugly. Gordo, gordo, fat. Guapo, guapo, handsome or pretty. Malo, malo, bad. Mismo, mismo, the same. Moreno, moreno, brunette. Mucho, mucho, a lot. Pelirrojo, pelirrojo, redhead. Pequeño, pequeño, small. Rubio, rubio, blonde. Simpático, simpático, nice. Tonto, tonto is dumb or silly. Viejo, viejo, old. Poco, poco is few. Varios, varios is several. Difícil, difícil, difficult. Fácil, fácil, easy. Grande, grande, big. Importante, importante. And you can probably guess what importante means just by looking at it. This is a cognate. A cognate is a word that is similar, looks similar in both, and means the same thing in both two different languages, so both English and Spanish in this case. So it looks like the word important, and it does mean important in Spanish, see? But be careful, ojo, watch out, there are false cognates out there too, see? So not every single word that looks like a word in English is going to mean that same thing. In this case it does though. Importante is important. Inteligente, inteligente, intelligent or smart. Interesante, Interesante, interesting. Joven, joven, young. Trabajador, trabajador, hardworking. Okay, so as I mentioned, adjectives are describing words and they describe nouns. See, so people, places, and things. And most often we use adjectives with the verb ser. See, especially for now, because we've seen the verb ser a lot. But we're going to use the verb ser a lot of the time with adjectives. And the reason for that is that the verb ser, which means to be, is used when we're talking about to be in regards to characteristics, nationality, size, color, shape, personality, appearance. All of those things are descriptions. So it's going to make sense that we would use adjectives with the verb ser. And that's just a note. Let's quickly go over the conjugations of the verb ser just to jog our memory. It's always good to do review. So again, ser, the verb ser means to be. So yo soy, I am. Tú eres, you are. Él, ella, usted, es. So he, she, and you formal. He and she is, and you formal are. Nosotros somos. So we are. Vosotros sois. So you all in Spain are. You as a group in Spain are. Ellos, ellas, ustedes son. So they, masculine group of people, and they, feminine group of people, and you all, everywhere else except for Spain, are. Yeah. So again, typically we use the verb ser with adjectives, and adjectives are our describing words. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, in Spanish we do use adjectives differently than we do in English. Even though the concept of what an adjective is the same in both languages, how we go about using adjectives is different. To start off with, let's take a look at some rules about adjectives. So in Spanish, adjectives agree in gender and or number with the nouns that they describe. And what I mean by that is whatever the noun is, the adjective has to be also. And if you think about it, it makes sense because the adjective is describing the noun. And so if it is describing the noun, it has to be whatever the noun is in regards to gender and number. So what I mean by that is if the noun that it is describing is masculine, the adjective has to be masculine. If the noun that the adjective is describing is feminine, the adjective has to be feminine because it's describing the noun. The same for singular and plural. If you are describing a plural masculine noun, your adjective has to be plural and masculine because it's describing the noun. It has to be whatever the noun is. So let's take a look at what I mean by this. So, Juan es simpático. Elena es simpática. Ellos son simpáticos. So Juan is nice, Elena is nice, and they are nice. So in the first example, I have simpático with an O on the end because we're referring to Juan, and Juan is a male, one person, so singular and masculine. So I have to make my adjective that's describing him singular and masculine. In the second example, Elena is singular, one person, and feminine, female, so I'm going to change that O to an A on the end, simpática. In our third example, I'm talking about both of them, ellos, so they, are, son, and simpáticos. I have to make it plural because I'm talking about both of them, they. And I'm going to use the masculine form because in Spanish we use the masculine form anytime we're referring to a group of males and females together. So we're always going to take the masculine form when we have males and females together. So, again, adjectives have to agree in gender and in number with the nouns that they describe. So, again, what that means is that whatever the noun is, the adjective has to be as well. So, if your noun, your person, place, or thing is masculine, your adjective has to be masculine as well. If your noun is feminine, your adjective has to be feminine. See? So, let's talk about these specific adjectives and some of the rules. So adjectives that end in O, see, like alto, have 4 different forms. So alto can be alto if we're talking about one male, or right, and alta if we're talking about a singular female, one female. But we can also change it to altos, maybe we're talking about more than one male or a group of males, and altas, maybe we're talking about a group of females. So adjectives that end in O will change to singular masculine, singular feminine, plural masculine, and plural feminine, according to whatever noun it is that they're describing. And so let's take a look at an example of that. Pío es un hombre alto. Pío y Raúl son hombres altos. Ella es una mujer alta. Ellas son mujeres altas. So here we are looking at alto, and we see that we have alto singular masculine, alto plural and masculine, alta, singular and feminine, and altas, plural and feminine. And the reason for this is we're talking about what we are describing. So in the first example, Pío es un hombre alto. So we're talking about Pío, who's a man, hombre. And so alto is describing hombre, man. It's one man that we're talking about, masculine, so it has to be alto. In the second example, we're talking about Pío and Raúl. They are tall men, plural, so we have to make tall, alto, match hombres because that's what we're describing. And hombres is masculine and plural, so altos has to be masculine and plural. The third example, ella es una mujer alta. We're talking about a woman. Mujer means woman, and a tall woman. And so since we're talking about one tall woman, alta is describing the mujer. So we're going to make it singular and feminine. In the last example, ellas son mujeres altas. Altas is describing mujeres, so tall women. And since women is feminine and plural, altas has to be feminine and plural. Now, take a look, for example, at the first sentence, and you'll notice something different compared to English about the location of the adjective in the sentence. So take a look at that. In English, I would say Pío is a tall man. So in English, we put our adjectives in front of our noun, tall man. See? But in Spanish, it's the opposite. Our adjectives are going to come after our noun. And if you think about it, it really does make sense because if I said this, for example, I have a big, bright, red, bouncy, and you still have no idea necessarily what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a ball, see? But in Spanish, they say, tell me what it is you're talking about and then describe it to me. So in Spanish, we say, he is a man tall, literally, if we were to literally translate. And it's because we want to know what it is that we're describing before we start describing it, see? So your adjectives will come after your noun in Spanish. Bien. Okay, so let's take a look at a at different kinds of adjectives. So we talked about adjectives that end in O, see? Now let's talk about adjectives that don't end in O. There are adjectives that end in E, see? And consonants. So for example, inteligente ends in E. Adjectives that end in E or a consonant don't change to masculine and feminine, but they do change from singular to plural. So for example, let's take a look. Es un chico inteligente. Ella es una chica inteligente. So here, in the first example, I'm saying he is a smart guy. And in the second one, I'm saying she is a smart girl. Now, inteligente does not change to a masculine or feminine, even though we're talking about a male in the first one and a female in the second one. So adjectives that end in E or a consonant, so anything but a vowel, will not change to masculine and feminine, but they will change to singular and plural. So I can say inteligentes if we had more than one person that was smart that we were talking about. And in the second set of examples, es una clase difícil. Es un examen difícil. So even though clase is feminine in the first example and examen is masculine in the second example, it's going to stay the same, difícil. It's not going to show masculine or feminine because, again, adjectives that end in the letter E or a consonant will not change to masculine and feminine. However, they will change to singular or plural depending on if the noun is singular or plural. All right. And adjectives that end in OR, so this is an example of one, adjectives that end in OR will change for masculine, feminine, singular, and plural. So if I was talking about a hard-working man, see, un hombre trabajador, so that's singular, masculine, or a hard-working woman, una mujer trabajadora. And let's say I was talking about a group of hard-working men, hombres trabajadores, so ES, and a group of hardworking women, mujeres trabajadoras. So adjectives that end in OR will change to masculine, feminine, and singular and plural, just like the other adjectives that we've seen so far. All right, so let's talk about adjectives of quantity. So adjectives of quantity, that means adjectives that talk about a number of something. So words like mucho, a lot, poco, a little or a few, and varios, several, are examples of adjectives of quantity. And we just said that adjectives typically come after the noun in Spanish. However, there is an exception, so there's an exception for everything because language always changes, and that's what's exciting about it. But the adjectives of quantity in Spanish precede or come before the noun. And we've seen this concept before when we talked about the number of things. So when we talked about the verb hay, H-A-Y, meaning there is or there are, we talked about that in regards to numbers. So we could say something like, hay dos libros. There are 2 books. So 2 is a quantity, and we put that before the noun, and we've seen this type of sentence before. So the same concept we're going to transfer over to adjectives of quantity. So adjectives like mucho, poco, and varios. So here are some examples. Hay muchos libros. Hay pocos libros. Hay varios libros. So muchos, pocos, and varios are adjectives of quantity. And because we're talking about quantity, a number of things, just like the numbers that we saw before, these adjectives of quantity are going to come before the noun. So they're going to break that rule where we said typically adjectives come after the noun. But adjectives of quantity, of number, will come before the noun. Bien. Okay. So, now that we have talked about some descriptive adjectives, I do want to talk a little bit about some more adjectives that are nationalities. So I'm going to go over some nationalities with you, and I'd like you to repeat with me. Alemán, alemana, German, so a German male and a German female. Argentino, Argentina. So Argentino is a male from Argentina, and Argentina is a female from Argentina. See? So I could say he is Argentinian. Él es argentino. Ella es argentina. Canadiense, canadiense. Now remember, this adjective ends in an E, so it's not going to change to masculine or feminine. However, it will change to singular or plural. So you can have more than one canadiense, which would be canadienses. Canadian. All right. Chino, China, Chinese. Costarricense, Costarricense. And by taking a look at the word, you can guess that someone that is costarricense es de Costa Rica. So they are Costa Rican. And a cultural note on this nationality is that it is very common, especially in Costa Rica, to refer to someone that is costarricense from Costa Rica as a tico. So if someone said soy tica, that means I am Costa Rican. See? So tico and tica is a nickname given to people from Costa Rica. So instead of saying soy costarricense, I could say soy tica, and both would mean I am Costa Rican. Cubano, cubana, Cuban. Ecuatoriano, ecuatoriana, Ecuadorian. Español, española, Spanish, as in from Spain. Estadounidense, estadounidense. And again, since it ends in E, it's not going to change to masculine or feminine, but it will change from singular to plural. And estadounidense is American, as in from the United States. See? And this is a bit more formal. This is something that you would see typically on legal paperwork. If you're from the United States, typically you'd say norteamericano, North American. And you have to be careful about just saying American, see, americano, because we are all Americans, whether we are from North America, Central America, or South America. So you do need to specify in Spanish if you are North American. If you're referring to being from the United States, you would say norteamericano, North American, instead of just saying americano. Okay. Francés, francesa, French. Inglés, inglesa, English, as in from Britain or England. Italiano, italiana, Italian. Japonés, japonesa. Remember, watch out for the pronunciation on that J. J's in Spanish most of the time sound like an H. So think of the word, and I'm sure you've all heard the word jalapeño. Jalapeño starts with a J, but it sounds like an H. See? So japonés, japonesa, Japanese. Mexicano, mexicana. Be careful because it's not Mexicano or Mexicana. It's Mexicano, Mexicana. See? Mexican. Norteamericano, Norteamericana, North American. And again, this refers to someone from the United States. Ruso, Rusa, Russian. Puertorriqueño, Puertorriqueña. And you can also refer to someone who is born in Puerto Rico as Boricua. Boricua is a word that is used to describe someone's nationality who is from Puerto Rico. So you can say Puertorriqueño or you can say Boricua. And one note about the nationalities in Spanish is that the nationalities are not capitalized like they are in English. In English, if we were to write that someone is German, we would capitalize the G for their nationality. But in Spanish, we do not capitalize the nationalities. Okay, so one more time. Adjectives describe nouns. So adjectives describe people, places, and things. And adjectives typically come after the noun in Spanish. See, because we want to know what it is, so the person, place, or thing that we're talking about before we start describing it with the adjectives. And adjectives that end in O, like alto, see, adjectives that end in O will change to masculine, feminine, singular, and plural to match the noun that they describe. And all nouns in Spanish will match the noun that they describe. Because they are describing the noun, they have to be whatever the noun is, whether it's masculine, feminine, singular, or plural. Again, adjectives that end in E, such as inteligente, see, and adjectives that end in consonants, such as fácil, will not change from masculine or feminine, but they will change from singular to plural. Bien. So that's just a quick lesson on adjectives. I hope that you learned something. If you have any questions, please reach out to me and I will be happy to help you as always. Ok, clase. Gracias. Adiós.